Welcome to the 22nd Vegan Convergence of the Peoples Thriving on Planet B. I'm Marikita Solis, and I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Forrest Tierce. Forrest is a passionate advocate for the earth and all forms of sentient life. He has practiced many different traditions of Buddhism for the last 20 years and is currently studying the Dhammapada with a specific focus on the precept trainings. We are honored to have this impactful presentation, Environmental Impact of Animal Agriculture, Forrest Tierce.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And sorry for the technical difficulties there. I'm really grateful to be here today. Thank you so much to everybody, the climate healers. When I first was asked by Dharma Voices for Animals, is who I work for, if I wanted to apply for this, I said, I looked and I was like, the climate healers, these people know this stuff. Okay, I guess I'll apply, but I'm not sure. And so anyway, I'm excited to give this presentation to you guys today. This is my first time doing this on Zoom from a canvas. So this is I used to be a park ranger before I worked for Dharma Voices for Animals. So this is a talk that I gave as a park ranger that's been modified. And I really hope that this story can impact some people. The topic is legacy, and I like to talk about legacy as the long-lasting implications of our actions. And the talk is about the environmental impact of animal agriculture. And as I said, I'm a former park ranger. Used to work for the National Park Service as an interpretive park ranger. And here we go. I worked in the Golden Gate National Recreation Area for some years out at a lighthouse. So up on near the Golden Gate Bridge, and I've got a couple pictures of my wife and I here as park rangers overlooking the bridge, and a couple of us with our doggies. I usually don't give these facts out, but when I'm giving the talk as a park ranger, but today it's a great place to do this. I've been vegan for 17 years. I'm a very passionate, enthusiastic animal activist and environmental activist, and I use my platform as a park ranger to carry this message. And I went to the higher ups at the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and I said, "Hey, I want to present a talk about the benefits of going plant-based. This is all from the United Nations." And they said, "Okay, I guess as long as you don't say go get a vegan burger at this vegan restaurant, you can give the talk." So I'm like, "All right." So people would come out to the lighthouse expecting to hear about the whales and these things. I gave them a different version of the story and talked about what you're going to hear today. So I found Dharma Voices for Animals through a meditation group, and we have a monthly meditation meetup that everyone is invited to, for animal activists and Buddhists and non-Buddhists and vegans and anyone curious about plant-based. It's a once a month. You could check that out. My title is Project Director for the United States, and I've been working with DVA just for like the last 5 months just about. And I wanted to tell a little bit about DVA and then get into the talk. So we are an international animal advocacy organization, the only Buddhist one. You would think that Buddhists would be really on board with this, but there's actually quite a bit of animal eating and meat eating in Buddhism in these centers. So our goal, our mission with DVA is to help raise awareness around the simplicity and beauty of the Buddhist teachings and the sustainability issues with animal farming, and help raise people up to get on board with the plant-based lifestyle. So let's have a quick graph here. We have our president, Bhante. He's a Buddhist monk. And I'm U.S. project director. We're also very big projects in Thailand, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka. We work to help in some dog meat farming in Vietnam, and in Thailand. Just recently, we had some great success switching Buddhist centers who are feeding the monks animal-based products, switching these centers to plant-based meals. And one center going plant-based, we're talking thousands of meals over the course of a year. So this is a big work. DVA does amazing things. Dharma Voices for Animals is a great organization. I'll give you some more resources at the end about us if you want to check us out. There's so much great stuff that DVA does. And I just real quickly, I was asked to come, and I am with a Buddhist organization, so I just wanted to give a couple quick little things that I love about Buddhism, just to share with everybody about why Buddhists care about this stuff. And you know, the heart of Buddhism is really found in loving kindness and compassion, and a lot of that begins with the precepts. And the precepts are the very beginning, the things that the Buddha asked the lay disciples to do, people that are just living their life. These are the five precepts, and refraining from killing or causing to kill is the first precept. And we go through the different precepts, and in animal agriculture, as I'll show today, it violates all five of these precepts. So it's very clear that we should be living a spiritual life in harmony with nature. And for anyone that has never heard of Buddhism or has never practiced meditation, maybe there's a type of meditation called metta. And as an animal lover, as a vegan on a world that's geared towards the opposite so many times, the practice of metta is so beautiful. It's been a practice for me that's really helped my mental health as an activist, be able to stay loving and come from my heart with a heart full of love. Metta is a beautiful meditation practice. You can look it up. There's thousands of videos online about it. And so, you know, those of us here today, we're probably geared towards this, and it's great to be able to share the beauty of these simple teachings. And so I'm going to get into what I gave. So this program was born at the Point Bonita Lighthouse. You can imagine being 3 miles west of the Golden Gate Bridge, and overlooking the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by pelicans and seals and just the beauty of the Pacific Ocean. It's just an incredible spot. And, you know, I designed this talk to give to the general public, which is why I was very intimidated when I was picked to speak here, because I'm like, these guys know this stuff, you know, but I did have the opportunity to give this talk at a vegan campout last summer in the Arizona desert. My wife and I are van lifers. We've been doing the nomadic minimalist lifestyle for the last 5 years. And we were in the Arizona desert with a group of like-minded individuals, a vegan campout, van life campout. And it was really cool. And my wife volunteered me to give this talk. So I gave my talk like I did at the lighthouse with my picture slides. And I was intimidated to give the talk to 30 vegans because I literally geared this talk to the general public who's coming to the lighthouse expecting to hear lighthouse stories. And I'm talking about animal agriculture and environmental destruction. So, but what they told me was that my story inspired them on their path, and it maybe helped some of them to share some of this story with their friends and family who are not on board with even the environmental message. So I want to share that with you guys, that this is a story that's designed to compel and bring the emotions out of people who did not expect to hear an environmental talk. It was odd when I was thinking I'm giving this at an environmental conference, much less the vegan convergence of the peoples. How awesome is this? But you know, I would just share that with you guys so you kind of know where I'm coming from here. So I want to start out. I mentioned this is that I gave this talk at the lighthouse overlooking the Pacific Ocean. It's an incredible spot. I love the ocean, but I want everybody here to close their eyes and just imagine your favorite spot in nature, whether that's a national park, a national forest, a cave underground, the ocean. Close your eyes and just pause for a minute right now and feel the beauty, smell the smells, the feeling, the sounds like of being in that place, wherever that is for you. And the reason I do that is I just want all of us to have a moment of awe and wonder about nature. When I was at the lighthouse, I asked people to do this while standing next to the ocean. It was very easy to take that pause and have that moment of awe and wonder and connect. So no matter where your favorite spot is, whatever you thought of, whether it's any of those mountains or forests or deserts, I love all these places. This spot, this earth is under complete attack. And what's happening is incredibly tragic. And the spot you're thinking of and the spot I gave this program at are all suffering from a history of environmental destruction and present day environmental destruction. I'm going to paint a picture and tell you the story about what happened at the Point Bonita Lighthouse and really the Pacific Coast over the last 100 years. And then I'm going to talk about what's happening now on the earth. Okay, so I want to start out by talking about some of the beautiful animals we get to see at the lighthouse. We have a colony of harbor seals that live in the Bonita Cove year round. And many people have heard of the gold rush, but before the gold rush, there was the California fur rush. It was really the West Coast, Pacific Coast fur rush. Trappers came from all over the world and they hunted marine mammals and furry critters that lived in the creeks and rivers all the way into the Sierra Mountains, almost to extinction. This happened between the 1730s and really up until 1911 when they first started protecting some of these sea animals. So much destruction happened with this hunting. And at the same time, whale hunting in the Pacific Ocean completely decimated the population. I worked at the lighthouse. We got to watch humpback whales. This is a humpback whale in the San Francisco Bay breaching. I would stand out there for hours a day talking about the whales and what they're suffering from and what they're going through and make sure everyone that came to the lighthouse got to see a whale. That was my goal when they came out there during the summer. So there was absolute annihilation. What we see left in the ocean now is just a fraction of what once was out there. And it's crazy to think that the last whaling station in the United States was in the San Francisco Bay, and it closed in 1971 as the result of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. People came together and did good, and they decided to protect these marine animals, marine mammals from hunting, and they are no longer allowed to be hunted on anywhere near the United States coast. They're still hunted in other countries, but in the United States, the Marine Mammal Protection Act was passed. So that shows we can come together and do good things when we have motivation. At the same time, all of the hunting of the animals was going on, extensive logging of the redwood trees. I love the redwood trees. I give this talk, like I said, at the lighthouse. The Golden Gate National Recreation Area has Muir Woods National Monument. For me, I used to live in that area, and I would drive over Mount Tam down to Stinson Beach, and there's a space where you're in the redwood forest, and the Pacific Ocean saltwater air mingles with that, and there is a magical smell. I'm getting chills right now just thinking about the beauty of these redwood forests. I love the trees, and I love standing next to these trees and feeling tiny. That's what nature does for us. During this time, 95% of all of the old growth redwood forests were logged. We only have 5% remaining. If you have not been able to go see the coast redwoods up in Humboldt County, Jedediah Smith State Park, Redwood National Park, you got to go. It is just incredible to see 1,000-year-old trees. The largest density of standing biomass on the planet are in these forests, even more than the Amazon because the trees are so gigantic. So, I tell these stories and tie it back to legacy. So we look at these photos of people whaling, people hunting the seals and proudly cutting down these trees. And I ask myself when I see these photos, what were they thinking? We know they were motivated by greed, but they honestly believed that nature was so infinite, so abundant that no matter what they did, they would not make an impact. They believed that. Lewis and Clark's expedition, where they described nature in this God-given infinite abundance. Humans didn't believe that they could do damage. They didn't have satellite imagery or even science really to show them what they were doing. They thought there was billions of whales and billions of trees. They just destroyed these areas. So, my question I ask you, and if you were driving over the Golden Gate Bridge and you saw them towing a whale in, or if you went to the forest and saw them cutting a tree down, or if they were clubbing the seals in Bonita Cove, like people would be up in arms, and they are. People fight these things to this day. But what these photos show us is that humans have the ability to actually change their mindset. These are not allowed anymore in a lot of places. We protect these animals, and in some areas, these things still happen, but we have changed our mindset in a lot of ways, right? So that ties into the idea of legacy. These people behind us, they left a really bad legacy that we get to think about. So what is our mindset? And this is where we can look at the idea of being eco-minded, where we're a part of nature, where when I'm at the lighthouse, I'm just a being among beings, among the whales and the sea lions and the birds and the worms. I'm just a being out there. In fact, I see myself as less important to that ecosystem than those beings, right? And then the ego idea, where we are the apex predator, where we're the top of the whole hierarchy and everything bows down to us. And can we evolve from the apex predator species to the apex caretaker species? That is our mission, and I believe that's why we're here, to evolve, right? So what is our legacy going to be? What is the legacy of our generation going to be? When people look back at us on 100 years and they say, wow, what were they thinking? Are they going to say the same thing about us? So I want to shift gears now and go larger. I told a little bit about the history of the Pacific Ocean. I want to talk about bigger picture now. What's happening on our little blue planet, right? I like to think, I heard someone describe Earth. It's just a little blue speck of dust in a giant cosmos. It's great to get this image and take a step back. And I really believe nature is the great equalizer. When I was at the Point Bonita Lighthouse, I got to meet people from all over the world. It was so incredible. And people would come from all over the world to take pictures. People would get engaged out there, come do TikTok dances. I mean, it was quite a scene. And, but people from all over the world would come there and be in awe and wonder. And it reminded me of when I had everyone here try to connect with nature. Nature is the great equalizer. No matter who you are or where you're from, almost everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people can feel that moment that doesn't matter their political beliefs, ideologies, standing next to a mountain, standing next to the ocean or a tree or the Grand Canyon gives you a moment of awe and wonder. So I really feel like nature can be the great equalizer and we can come together on this if we focus properly, right? So two important facts about what I'm going to present today. As I mentioned, I geared this talk for people who do not want to hear an environmental talk. I did not gear this talk for the VCOP. I geared this talk to people that were coming to the lighthouse. So I really tried hard to exclude anything that is a hot topic. And I don't normally say this, but at the lighthouse, but today I'll tell you guys, I did not include anything in this talk that's cyclical, meaning things that transition up and down that people argue about. I don't mention emissions. I don't mention sea levels. I do not mention temperature. I do not mention climate change in this talk. And my experience giving this talk is, but even by leaving all of that out, there is still enough compelling information to get people who may not even listen to this. As a park ranger, I would stand somewhere, people could walk up and leave as they wanted. So I wanted to give a very compelling story without using any of those words that's going to cause some people just to walk away as soon as they hear that word. So everything in here is not cyclical. So the cyclical stuff is what has been debated and people want to argue about it. And the oil and gas industry has spent billions to show it's cyclical, right? So I did not include any of that. And everything is easily found. It's factual. It's not fringe theory. So it's very important that those ideas are understood before I progress. Okay, so now, before I get into any sort of eco talk or environmental talk, I always like to stop for 1 second and talk about the economy, right? As I mentioned, I'd be at the lighthouse and I want to tie everybody into this. So the economy is what really opposes many people to caring for the environment. However, most of you have probably heard about the limits to growth that came out in 1972. A group of MIT scientists, they found that infinite growth on a finite planet is an illusion. Big shocker, right? So 50 years later, KPMG came back and did a big review of all of this data. And this has been reviewed periodically, and they've found that we're on track. Everything's tracking. Unfortunately, it's tracking. 50 years later, KPMG, which is one of the big four accounting firms, gives it reputable. It was republished in the Yale Journal of Industrial Ecology. They have found that all the predictions made in the 70s are right on track. We actually have more fossil fuels than they thought we would. Unfortunately, we still have more and we're finding more. But all of the predictions of industrial collapse, agriculture collapse, food collapse, population collapse are perfectly tracking. And this is very stark, very grim information. We've got to make a change. And VCOP and Climate Healers is talking about it. We're passing thresholds in 2026 that we cannot come back from. This is urgent. This is not something we can dilly-dally and worry about. They said technology could possibly solve some of these problems, but it's not growing fast enough and not enough people are adopting a more minimal lifestyle. So this is very important information to talk and share about. So, okay, so we're going to go into what's happening on the planet. 70% of the Earth is covered by water. 70% of our oxygen comes from the ocean. Phytoplankton and algae, they produce this oxygen for us, and the ocean is being completely polluted by plastics. You guys know about this plastic soup. What floats on top of the ocean is literally just the tip of the iceberg. As it photodegrades and it melts down into the water, it creates plastic smog that allows no life to live there. It's devoid, and it's creating these huge pockets of dead zones. So many people, I would talk about the recycling facts as well. When you get a bottle that says recyclable and you go put that in the blue can, what percentage of that is being recycled? And it might even be lower than this now. It's only 5%. And that does not include toothbrushes and bags of chips and the plastic thing or greens, spinach comes in. None of that is actually recyclable. And tons of this stuff is shipped to countries that can't do anything with it and it gets dumped into the ocean or burned or buried. We've got to make a difference. My wife and I are on board with Zero Waste Outlet. There's a bunch of ways you can go plastic free and simple guides to do that. It makes a difference drinking from a non-plastic bottle. So we got to make a difference. These things, the earth is swimming in plastics and drowning in plastics. So I also wanted to go on and talk a little bit about what else is happening in the oceans. Animal farming is a major driver of ocean dead zones. Agricultural waste runs straight from the rivers and causes algae blooms. This is a picture of the Gulf of Mexico, major dead zones. Okay, so let's switch gears. We're going to talk about what's happening on the land. Most of you guys probably heard of the World Wildlife Fund. They do an exhaustive study every year called the Living Planet Index. They count over 5,000 species of mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and fish. They do an exhaustive study every year, and they come back and they show us how is biodiverse wildlife doing on Earth. And this is tragic. 73% decline in biodiverse wildlife just in my lifetime, just in the last 50 years. Animal agriculture is the number one driver of habitat destruction. Millions of species are facing extinction. So this is tragedy happening right in front of our eyes. And it's being called the Holocene extinction. Scientists have determined we're in the middle of what's called the sixth mass extinction event in the history of the Earth. And the population explosion of humans is what's driving this event. So this is a chart from National Geographic that shows all of the cyclical events, right? So when people want to say these things are cyclical, a great comeback is saying, yes, there are cyclical events that have happened. They're called mass extinction events. And when ocean levels have risen and heat temperatures and ice caps and these things have been cyclical, they've been followed by mass extinction events. So saying these things are cyclical does not deny the fact that they are tied to mass extinction events. So, however, there are two unique features of the current mass extinction event. The first one being is that current rates of mass extinction are 1,000 times greater than what's seen in a quote unquote normal mass extinction. And more importantly, this is the only mass extinction event in the history of this earth that's been caused by a single species. That species is us, human beings. So when we look at the earth and we go back to the Living Planet Index, some of you guys have probably seen this. We look at the biodiverse wildlife of mammalian life. So when we look at all the mammals on earth, and we break them into three categories: livestock, meaning cows, pigs, sheep, goats, any mammals that we farm for food, and humans, and biodiverse wildlife. Biodiverse wildlife is only at 4% of all mammalian life on this planet. You go back 100, 200 years ago, these numbers were the complete opposite. Humans made up a small percentage, and wildlife filled the earth. So while we sit here living our life, we are literally destroying the entire natural world. So the rainforest is where we get another 30% of our oxygen. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about land with animals and also what's happening in the rainforest. The Amazon, as you guys know, is being logged at an incredible rate, 1 to 2 acres per second. It's cleared for grazing animals and for raising soybeans. I think it's 96% of soy is fed to farm animals. Even fish eat soybeans now. It's not all the vegans eating soybeans. It's going to the animals. People often see this slide and say, okay, I'm going to stop eating beef. Beef is a problem. However, so many people are switching to chickens. It's incredible. So animal farming is shaping what lives and dies on the earth. 90 billion land animals are killed every year. And we have animal farming has almost doubled in the last 35 years, the number of people eating animal meat. But if you look at what's the predominant number, 90% of meat animals are chickens. On this planet, they are the least protected animal, farm animal, and they suffer horribly. And they're breeding billions of them into existence. And the problem with all of this ties into many things, but the manure is one of them. Farm animals release almost twice as much manure as all humans annually. Chicken manure alone has permanently and completely altered the ecosystem of our earth. In 1,000 years from now, when they go back and look at the layers of the earth, chicken manure alone has created a permanent geological record. And it will show the time of mass slaughter of animals on this planet. We know this is not sustainable, and this will be shown to future generations what we did during this time. This manure runs off into the ocean and the lakes. It creates all types of pollution problems as well. So when we look at water usage, many people understand, oh yeah, hamburger is a lot of water. But when we look at how many chickens are raised and how much water goes into chickens, it is astronomical. Now, I took the numbers from these previous slides and added up how many chickens are slaughtered versus how many gallons, and this is the tally I came up with. Cows use an annual water usage of 176 billion gallons. Chickens, 4,000 billion, 5,000 million. The number for chicken usage is astonishing, and I don't even believe this includes chicken slaughterhouses, which use as much water as a small city. So while people go thirsty, we pour water into meat production, and it's just such an incredible waste. So, okay, so a lot of people have seen this slide. So there's a lot on this slide. I gave this talk, as I said, at the lighthouse, and I practiced this the other day to see if this would work on Zoom. Bear with me here. This helps. When I was at the lighthouse, I would try to give this part of the talk, and people would get lost with 70% and 30%. So I created a rope, and I'm going to stand up. I practiced this with my coworker the other day to see if this would work on Zoom, and it worked pretty well. So I want to show you guys a visual. So what I did was I got a 10-foot piece of rope, and I divided it up into the percentages of the earth that we're looking at on this slide. Okay, so here is our little blue speck of dust, the earth. The earth is 70% ocean. Here's how much that is. All the way across, 70% of the earth is ocean. As I already mentioned, this is suffering from plastic pollution and dead zones. That only leaves us about 30% of the earth, which is actual land. Okay? But not all of this land is habitable. This is polar ice caps and deserts and mountains and rocky terrain humans can't survive on. So that only gives us even less land we can survive as human beings on. And what we're doing with the habitable land on Earth, as this chart shows, is we're using almost 50% of it to raise animals for food. This is what's causing the problem. We only have this much land to survive as humans, and we're using it for this. The destruction is incredible, okay? So I'm going to come back to this rope in a minute, and you can see on that small piece of land, we're only getting 18% of our global calories and 37% of our global protein. So we're getting most of our protein from plants anyway. We're using this massive piece of land that's not even efficient. Okay, here's the good news. Now, I didn't design this talk to be a downer. I designed this talk to be inspiring and hopeful. So I wanted to give you guys the heavy information, but I also wanted to give you the simple and perfectly easy solution that exists. And it's the good news, and it's not news. We've known this for a while. A plant-based diet can solve all of these problems. I've got a couple quotes from Oxford University. One of them is, avoiding meat and dairy is the single biggest way to reduce your impact on Earth. And another one, I give this talk in the Bay Area. So I quote Stanford and Cal. Our best and most immediate chance to reverse our trajectory is going plant-based. And why is that possible? Because it seems like a big thing, right? We're even looking at if we look at all of these universities, Oxford, Johns Hopkins, Cambridge, NYU, Harvard, the USDA, the US EPA saying these things. So why is this possible? Because you can feed 14 times as many people on a plant-based diet as on an animal-based diet. What that looks like is a 75% reduction in land use. So I'm going to go back to this rope one more time just to show you guys what this looks like with the rope. This visual is here. Okay, so as I mentioned, here's our Earth. We have 70% of the Earth is ocean. From this 70%, we kill 2 to 3 trillion marine animals per year for food, while the fishing industry receives global subsidies of $50 billion. Many studies have shown that with $40 billion, you could end world hunger. And we give $50 billion just to the fishing industries. Okay, we're going to go back to the land. As I mentioned, this is how much land there is on Earth. Not all of it's habitable, so we have about this much habitable land. We currently use 50% of the land on Earth. If everybody switched to a plant-based diet, you could feed the entire planet. A 75% reduction of land is this much land. To feed the entire planet, we currently grow enough crops to feed 10 billion people. But we feed them to the animals. Current animal agriculture practice. With this land, 90 billion land animals are raised for food and slaughtered every year, while worldwide global animal agriculture subsidies are at $540 billion. This entire system has to be propped up because it's so unsustainable. And it is literally funding the systemic annihilation of the earth and the destruction of our environment. We're paying for this with subsidies. And while we slaughter 90 billion land animals, 9 million humans die each year from starvation. A human dies every 4 seconds from hunger-related causes. So this is just tragedy. This isn't just a sustainability issue. This is an ethical issue. How can we talk about human rights while we're eating animal products and humans are dying every day? So we have to make a change, and we have to make it now. So I'm going to get into a little bit more good news. Bloomberg Financial has shown, you may hear, oh, whatever on the news. The facts are these. This is the numbers. The plant-based industry is growing incredibly. In the last 4 years, it's grown by 60 billion and is expected to grow by another 100 billion in the next 6 years. And this is something important I just read recently. Well, the plant-based lifestyle is considered the fastest growing lifestyle in history. 500% increase in the United States in the last 10 years, 370% increase in the UK, 50% increase in the EU. But I just found something recently. 86% of plant-based foods are being purchased by non-plant-based people. These are meat eaters who just want to eat something a little different. Maybe they feel a little like they want to buy a little bit of plant-based. It's not being purchased by the whatever percentage of vegans. We're buying that stuff, but this market is growing because 86% of these products are being bought by others. So that's something good to think about and remember. So systemic change always happens from the ground up. We can't wait for governments to make changes. We have to take personal responsibility for our own actions to make a change. And we vote with our dollars. And I tell people this all the time. You used to go to the grocery store 10, 15 years ago, and there was milk and soy milk. Now there's milk, soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, oat milk. Who knew we could make milk from so many things? This is literally a passive change. Instead of buying dairy, I'm going to buy this other product. You can get all the taste, all the textures, all the flavors in plant-based products. You can get in animal-based products and make a more environmental and ethical decision and benefit your own health as well. So we vote with our dollars. And I like to tie this in a little bit right now with the supply-demand economics. When we go to the grocery store, we literally are paying for what we're voting for. It's a simple change. And I tie this into the Buddhist idea because many Buddhists say, well, I didn't kill the animal, this and that. They compare it to receiving alms. So I left this idea in here. We're not going out people aren't just offering us food. We live in a supply and demand economy where the consumer determines what is offered to us. The reason why there's so many plant-based offerings is because consumers are asking for them. The reason why there's eco-friendly products out there is because the consumers are asking for them. These giant global corporations are not offering eco-friendly products because they care. They're offering it because we are saying, hey, I want an eco-friendly toilet paper, right? I want an eco-friendly toothbrush. So they're being invented and offered to us, right? So with compassion, we can make a passive choice and make a big impact. So I get common questions. I like to address this because so many times I would finish the talk and someone would come up and say, "Yeah, I tried to go plant-based, but almond milk sucks." And I'm like, "What? What? That because almond milks use more water, you're not going to try plant-based?" So I had to put this slide in here. Okay, yes, almond milk uses more water than the other plant-based milks. But look at dairy. Emissions, land use, water. This is dramatic difference. Almond milk is a way better decision than dairy, and there's other options that are even better. I personally like oat milk and soy milk for the extra protein, right? So I had to throw that in there. And I also often get people would come up and say, what about regenerative agriculture or grass-fed beef? Well, I think it's three entire Earths, or I'm getting my number, maybe it's 14 Earths. I can't remember. If everybody switched to grass-fed beef, it is not sustainable, nor is it eco-friendly. It may be healthier for the cows to eat grass, but they live longer and they fart more and drink more water. It is not sustainable. And while regenerative agriculture has been branded a marketing scheme, it shows short-term benefits, but it is not scalable. You can't feed 9 billion people with regenerative agriculture. However, plant-based regenerative agriculture is where the money needs to be spent because plant-based regenerative agriculture is even showing more results and more benefits. So, okay, so I crammed a lot in there and I went a little faster because of my Zoom delay, but I want to tie this back in now to what is your legacy? And this is how I like to finish the talk. I've talked about the people that logged the trees and hunted the whales. We look back at them and say, what were they thinking? I want to ask you, what are you thinking? What are people going to look back when they see us and they say, they had documentaries on Netflix about this stuff and they were arguing about it? I mean, what is your legacy going to be when this is evident? Everything I showed you today has never happened before. There's never been this many farm animals. There's never been this much land use for animals. There's never been this much plastic in the ocean. There's never been a mass extinction event in our current epoch. So these are things that are happening that have never happened before. These are factual evidence. What are you going to do, right? And each year, humanity kills over 90 billion land animals and 1 to 3 trillion aquatic animals. The suffering is beyond scope. And in Buddhism, we have a loving being called a bodhisattva. And I feel like if you're here today, you're already a bodhisattva because you care. And a bodhisattva is an individual who dedicates their entire life to helping other beings and helping in their suffering. And I love this idea of a bodhisattva. And may we all be bodhisattvas with love in our heart so that we can help change this story, so that we can shine a light that's so bright and have such love emanating from our heart for all beings that we can make a positive impact on this earth. There's an old story about Mother Teresa. She would never go to a protest, but she would go to a peace rally. And I think that ties in with our mission. If we can be peaceful and loving and powerful in our convictions, we can make a real difference. I didn't mention factory farming because I live in an area where there are no factory farms. There's farm to table. So if I mentioned factory farming in the area I lived in Marin County, people would say, "Oh, I buy my dairy from Strauss." They ride out here in West Marin. The cows look at the. So I talk about animal farming. I feel factory farming just pushes people more into buying local. So let's talk about animal farming and the reality that every cow drinks water, every cow suffers, and they all have the same footprint. So I wanted to tie in just real quick a couple last things with Buddhism. I wanted to show a couple Buddhist teachers who are walking the path of compassion. One of my favorite Buddhist teachers is Thich Nhat Hanh. I put a little clip of his, or a picture of his talk on YouTube, Why Everyone Should Be Vegan, from a Buddhist monk who's considered a very powerful leader. And here's some other quotes from a few other Buddhist teachers who say, meat is medicine for ignorance, and by eating meat, we're eating the flesh of our own children. So how can we still speak of loving kindness while we're still eating animals? So there are Buddhist teachers out there walking this path. And there is so much information. If you guys could take a screenshot of this, I'll also make sure that somehow through Climate Healers, this talk is available. I have it in PDF forms for anyone that wants to check it out or whatever. But there's so many resources, and you guys probably know about a lot of this stuff, but this is a little bit about some other things and Dharma voices for animals. And I just want to dedicate this talk to the benefit of all beings. And one of the prayers we have with Metta is that may all beings be free from fear, may all beings be free from harm, may all beings be loved and no longer forgotten. And I share this with you guys. This is my love letter to the earth and the animals, and I hope it is their cry for help, and I hope we can receive this as a species. We can do this. We can come together. History has shown us that we can come together. And us on this path that are here today, we need to be bright beacons of love and bright beacons of light and shine this light of hope and optimism and caring. And I really believe it can help so much. So the last thing is DVA, DharmaVoicesForAnimals.org. Please look us up. We offer support to Buddhists. We offer support to Buddhists that are vegan. We offer support to anyone who might not even know what Buddhism is, with our monthly Sangha where you can come and meditate. We have amazing resources on our website, talks from different monks and ways to go plant-based. And we can help you as an individual out or a Dharma center that you may be interested in helping out. So thank you guys so much. Wow, I got that in record time, I think. And we still have a few minutes for anyone that wants to share a thought or ask a question or whatever. So I am so grateful. I was on yesterday, and I got so intimidated. I was listening to Dr. Rao and Jane Unchained and Keegan Kuhn and everybody today. And I'm like, these are people I know and look up to. And I was like, oh my God, little old me. And my wife gave me a pep talk this morning. She's like, you can do it. So I was very intimidated, but I'm so grateful. I really am very deeply grateful that I was able to be here today. And the last thing I'll say is I watched Dr. Rao's the greatest talk, environmental talk ever heard. That was posted to YouTube. And then the next day I got the invite and I'm like, oh. Great talk, Dr. Rao. Thank you guys so much for having me and letting me share this story. And yeah, thank you so much.
There is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet. There is a place where all life thrives. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. We know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. Oh, a world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. We call this planet B. Call this planet B. There is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. We call this planet B.
Honey, I'm on.
Call this planet B. There is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down.